Hello, my name is Zahn Eastis. I'm the founder and music director of the Juno Orchestra project. That's a project that's in residence at the Brattleboro Music Center. We're very excited to be bringing to you today, and so glad you're here to check out this new project we have, which is called Juno Singles. During the pandemic, a time which has affected all of us in so many amazing ways, Juno Orchestra went essentially moribund. One of the central tenets of Juno Orchestra is to perform new and loved pieces, much loved pieces, in front of curious audiences. And during the pandemic, we have been unable to find a way to reach as many people as we would like. But now, as we begin to come out of the pandemic, it looks like there will be a possibility for us to create this new project which will walk us back toward getting together. Juno Singles is a four-part project. The first part we're calling Creation. Juno Orchestra has commissioned local composers to write a 10 or 15-minute piece for the string section of Juno. Derrik Jordan, a world fusion specialist here in Brattleboro. Robbie Murfeld, who's a very much loved pianist in this neck of the woods. Dana Mabin, she's a Baroque violinist and Baroque music specialist. And then our fourth composer is Eugene Uman, who's the music director at the Vermont Jazz Center. So we're very excited to be working with these four composers who have each written a piece specifically for Juno Orchestra. The next part, which we're calling Interpretation, is that Juno Orchestra will workshop each of these pieces, one at a time, in 2-week intervals. At the end of our little workshop, each piece will be performed and recorded, performed for a minimal audience because still of COVID restrictions, but will be recorded, and then we're going to put together a little documentary of each of the composers and a performance of the piece, so you can enjoy this work that we're also enjoying. The third part of this project, we're very excited to be collaborating with Nimble Arts, the twins, Serenity and Elsie Smith. They will be providing for us a response to each of the audio recordings, a filmed response. So in addition to 4 performance videos from Juno Orchestra, you have an opportunity to see 4 videos by Nimble Arts that are in response to the music. So we have creation, interpretation, and response. Once we're all done with this pandemic and we can actually get everyone together again, we look forward to an opportunity where we'll take all 4 of these pieces, put them together in one concert, and engage with, again, Nimble Arts. We don't know quite what that's going to look like. We don't know quite how that's going to work. We know enough not to plan, as we've all been through this last year waiting to get plans put together. So watch for announcements about that. But for now, very excited to have you watch this video, which features Derrik Jordan, a piece he's written for the orchestra called Suite for an Imaginary Country. Derrik will talk about the piece a little bit, and then you'll hear a performance. Thanks very much.
I started in music as a teenager, really, because I was exposed to the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. I begged my mom, got a guitar, started playing in bands. By the time I was 13, and playing for school dances, I ended up going to Bennington College. Henry Brandt and Vivian Fine were the 2 main composer teachers, but I also discovered my mentor there, Milford Graves, who was an African-American drummer from Queens, New York. He turned me on to world music, to rhythm, to drumming, and percussion, and I just never looked back. My main thing now is I have a World Fusion television show where I'm the host and producer at BCTV, and I produce a new episode every 2 weeks, interviewing amazing, inspiring musicians from all over the world. I've traveled to Africa, Brazil, other places, Israel, so I have friends in these places, and some of them have been on my show. And some of them, when they tour, come through the studio at BCTV. I will host them, we will interview, and I will jam with them as part of the show. So that's really the big thing I'm doing now. But I've written 30 pieces for orchestras and chamber groups over the last, 10 or so years more. And I've been playing in bands, and dance bands continue to do that. I work with Tony Vaca and World Rhythms. We played the Woodstock Festival, the 50th anniversary, a couple years ago. It's great fun. At this point, and for now, many years, my primary interest has been not so much in classical composition, but really in what I call world fusion classical, using classical musicians, working with them to bring world music elements, tonalities, rhythms into that world, and creating a hybrid styles of many different kinds of music through my composition. The classical musicians are often not familiar with, let's say, the African 12/8 rhythms. They don't start on the one, they don't end on the last beat. There's rests in weird places for classical music, and there are accents in strange places, but these are typical of African phrasing. Suite for an Imaginary Country is not African influenced, none of the pieces to my ear. To work with classical musicians and to bring the funkiness and groove and danceability and the physical expression that's naturally connected to many of these world musics, like African music, is really a challenge, for sure. And it's not what most classical musicians are knowledgeable about or comfortable with. But I feel like it's something that I can offer that is to bridge these and bring these two worlds together. My mentor, Milford Graves, who I met at Bennington, really opened me up to this whole open concept of rhythm, and also always connected with dance and movement in all these cultures. It's sometimes the same word for both. So to be connected through the rhythm with the music is just a great way of expanding one's expression and understanding of a culture, of art. And, you know, for some classical musicians, they already get it. They're already there. They've already listened to a lot of this stuff. They're already able to make that move into that, even though they're used to reading from the page. Well, Africans generally don't understand what are you looking at? Because it's all coming through their ears, their eyes, in watching the movement and the overall sound, the dance, the physical expression. And that's, to them, that's the music. A lot of this music is actually not current. They're themes that I wrote a few years ago, some decades ago, that just stuck with me. And they didn't really fit anywhere. They weren't exactly world music in the sense that, to me, they didn't represent a culture. They weren't derived or inspired by a particular culture. So to start with the first movement that we're going to hear, Dark Matter, it's kind of mysterious, it's kind of dark, it's brooding, it's intense and energetic, but it's kind of bold and big, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's, again, particularly from any place. It's kind of minor. It's got that kind of a dark feeling to it. The second movement, Penta Waltz, is really unusual, and it's really hard for me to talk about because I really don't understand where that thing came from. To me, it's not like anything I've ever written. It doesn't sound like anything even that I've heard. And I call it a Penta Waltz because it sounds like a waltz, but it's in 5. So it's just really a weird kind of rhythm and sort of, again, falling in the cracks and harmonically and melodically kind of in this very unusual place, but I think very distinctive. In fact, it's actually my favorite of the 3 because it's the most unusual. So for what it's worth, that's Penta Waltz. So the third is the oldest, actually, melody. And it's a melody that just came to me one day. It's called OG Raga. It's called OG because I was in the OG restaurant in Soho waiting for my girlfriend to get off her shift. And the tune just came to me in 5. It's this little simple melody, very simple melody in 5. And it's stuck with me for years. And I've done various arrangements of it. And this one, of course, is for string orchestra. And I always liked it because it felt very buoyant, very exuberant, very joyful. But again, I mean, I can't really say it's not really Indian sounding. It's not really this or that. It's just kind of in the cracks, but it's got its own flavor and its own spirit, but a lot of spirit. So I thought this would be a good third movement to tie up the suite with.